Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Molly Edwards, the admissions director here at Newman Goretti. And tonight we are shining our spotlight on our English and social studies departments. We're excited to hear from them about what they teach, how they teach it, and how they're preparing our students for college and beyond. So we're going to get started tonight with our English department. They've put together a little video that kind of runs through what their department does, and then we'll have time for some Q&A after that. So I will go ahead and start their video.
This is the beginning. Action.
I'm Rebecca Rensburg, and I teach 9th grade English and one class of American government. For English, we're reading The Odyssey and Fahrenheit 451 and Romeo and Juliet, and we will also hopefully read Things Fall Apart as well. Those are the major works that we're doing.
I am Mr. Fenton. I teach freshman English and sophomore English. The major works for the freshman one, we do Romeo and Juliet, we do Hope, Despair, and Memory by Elie Wiesel, we do Fahrenheit 451, and then for the sophomores, we do like Rhetoric and Macbeth.
I am Ms. Sacklitz, and I teach sophomore English and AP Literature at Newman Goretti. Our major works in sophomore English are Macbeth. We also study rhetorical analysis. We study the story of Henrietta Lacks, and we read Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. In AP Literature, we do a plethora of analyses based on poetry, short fiction, and longer fiction works. We read titles like The Kite Runner and Hamlet, and the goal is to have students analyze why an author makes the choices the way that they do.
I am Mr. Olafson, and I teach junior English and AP Lang and Company. So some of the major works that we are reading in this class are The Story of an Hour, also The Crucible, and other various short stories, poetry, and pieces of literature in American Lit.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Swift. I teach senior English at Newman Goretti High School. This year we're working on Beowulf, Hamlet, and Frankenstein.
I teach at Newman Goretti because I think this is a school where anyone, no matter who they are, can be their most successful selves, and I really like that the staff, the administration, faculty, they empower each student to do that.
I teach at Newman Goretti because of the students. They are so much fun, and every day they bring me so much joy.
The reason I teach at Newman Goretti is because of the students. I love this group of students. I think they're awesome kids, and I'm really excited to come into work every day to see what they do, what they talk about. It's always great.
I teach at Newman Goretti because I love the kids. I love my students. I love the diversity that they bring to my classroom. It reminds me of the city of Philadelphia, which I grew up in, I still live in now.
I teach at Newman Goretti because the kids, because they're a really lovely bunch, and having the opportunity to really get to know them, because it's such a small school, really makes this a family environment. That's a wonderful, wonderful thing when you're trying to learn, especially freshmen, the first time coming to high school. Having that family environment really makes it a warm and friendly space and makes it a academically friendly space.
I teach English because I really believe that if you teach students how to read and write and access any level text and give them strategies to do that, the world is their oyster and they can do whatever they can put their mind to.
I love English. I love literature. It is, it's all about humanity. It's all about being a person and how to be a person, how to be a good person in the world. And it's about learning how to interact with people and learning about who we are at our cores. And that's what I teach English.
I like teaching English because reading and writing are skills you need throughout your whole life, and to give those skills to young students is something I'm passionate about, and the ability to make others communicate well, I think will, no matter what they do, set them on a successful path in life.
I love teaching English because I like to show the kids that reading is not as boring as they think it is, and writing is very formulated, and once they figure out that writing is not that hard, they do enjoy writing essays and writing about life and writing about stories.
I like teaching English because I love writing. I love teaching people how to write and just seeing the progress from day 1 to day 180 with how far a student has come in terms of writing. It's amazing.
Hi, my name is Nick Barbie. I'm a senior at Newman Goretti. You can tell by the stripes, and I've been involved with the English department for all 4 years of high school, just like every other student at Newman Goretti. Some things I've learned in the English department is how to be a better person overall and how to read texts like a master. I mean, this is a use of simile right here. Would I know that without the English department? No, I would not.
My name is Deanna Capaldi. I'm a junior, and I really like the English department because it helps me have a creative outlet and express myself through my writing.
My name is Nick Cav. I'm a junior, and I like the English department because of the teachers. I don't really like English as the subject, but I like all the teachers, and they make me like it.
My name is Quentin. I'm a senior in Newman Goretti. The reason why I like English is because it gives us space to be creative. It really compared to other subjects, it does give me a space to be creative and use my own interpretation in my work. And also it challenges me because English is not really my strongest subject, but it actually is enjoyable because I get to interpret things the way I want to, and then kind of challenge myself to be a better writer as well because I need to do that in the future. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Sophia Carlo. I'm a senior at Newman Goretti, and I love the English program at Newman Goretti because I love the teachers, and I feel like they all just really want to help you succeed. And I really love the communication and the classwork that we do.
Hi, my name is Jemima Odawali, and I'm the sophomore president.
Hi, I'm Billy Greco. I'm a NG sophomore student.
I love the English department because the English teachers at Newman Goretti are amazing. Last year I had Miss Swift, who easily became my favorite teacher, and now this year I have Miss Stack, who is also my favorite teacher. I also love the English department because the work is just entertaining, and the classes are so fun. The teachers help the students to be engaged in our work, and learning is not only about just doing the work, but it's also about feeling good in the classroom. And once you feel comfortable and happy in the classroom, you feel good about doing your work.
I also had Miss Swift, and this year I had Miss Stack, and I could easily say that those were two of my most favorite classes in all of my school career. It really helped turn English into a fun class, and I got to enjoy the work while also learning and enjoying the classroom scenery. It was really just a great experience overall, and the English department's doing a great job of helping students enjoy school while also getting a good experience in learning.
Why would this be a good example also of a full
All right. And thank the English department for putting that together. It was a really nice overview of who they are and what they do. And so I want to just ask a few questions for our English teachers specifically. And anyone who wants to answer can go ahead and take each one. But overall for the English department, what are the skills that you hope your students learn in your classes and that they take with them when they leave Newman Goretti? Ms. Sackwood, do you want to start us off?
Sure. I was just going to unmute. Well, we always ground ourselves in, teaching, reading and writing, of course, but also speaking and listening. And, through each grade, We up the rigor so that it, begins to mimic what the students are going to expect in college and to prepare them for that. And, there is so much reading and writing at a high level in college. So we really take the time to make sure that we're providing similar opportunities in an increasing manner, from the moment we get them until the moment they leave.
Thank you. And I know all of our students obviously take English every year. It's part of the core curriculum. They're required to take it all 4 years, but I know there are also some English electives. Do you guys mind sharing what those are and kind of what they look like in practice?
I teach creative writing for 12th grade, and it's actually a little bit of everything. We just got done writing short, scary stories for Halloween. We did creative writing for social media posts, which is actually super important in this day and age. Talked about what's appropriate and what's not appropriate to post. Is they're getting older and they need to see that and pick that out, and they really learned a lot from that. And just more details in their writing, which is needed through college and life.
Thank you, Ms. Swift. Any other electives or our AP options? I know those aren't technically electives, but we can talk about those as well.
Yeah, so I teach AP language and composition for the juniors, and it's very heavily focused on writing. So that is the main focus: how to write, how to break down arguments, why people write the way that they write, and looking for various methods of rhetoric that speakers and authors use in their own writing. So by finding those and analyzing those, they're better able to break down their own writing, and makes them stronger writers. Not even to just prepare them for that AP test at the end of the year, but as they continue on to college or whatever their next steps are after Newman Goretti.
Thank you. I know, like, when I think back on my high school experience, there's still projects that I remember doing. Like, they were such a big part of the curriculum. Everyone talked about it every year. So I was curious if the English teachers could talk about what are some of those projects or assignments that really stand out for you in your classes that are like your kind of capstone or seminal projects that the kids really get into.
In my classroom, we do one-page analysis, or I want to say analyses, but that's essentially just putting together a graphic, creative representation of a piece of literature. And, the students always really have a really fun time with it, while also analyzing literature, which is the dream of an English teacher. And, what they come up with always just ends up blowing me away, because not only are they, sharing these lovely insights with me about literature, but they also have these creative abilities that they share with me as well. And, I always love that.
Thank you. Any others?
I'll add to that as well. A little on the creative side. I have had my students write letters to Ray Bradbury, since Fahrenheit 51 is one of the texts that we learn in 9th grade. And they write letters to Ray Bradbury about their opinion on the book, and just being able to share their own feelings about literature in slightly less structured but a little more creative way. They get really, really excited about it.
Talking about the 9th grade English, I know our 8th graders are, they're excited, but also nervous about coming into high school. So what can they expect out of their 9th grade English class? What are the things they'll be learning, the type of work they'll be expected to produce, and how does that transition go for them?
So the work that they're expected to produce it's going to be, it's all writing focused to help them move from 8th grade writing to kind of high school level writing. You start with paragraphs, you move on to then making 2 paragraphs and connecting them, and then moving on to then 3 paragraphs and 4, until you finally get to the full essay by the end of the first semester, so that they feel that they've gotten an opportunity to really get an in-depth look at writing along the way. And then we can start talking about what the essay is and how that's important to writing for literature. And doing literary analysis, something similar, starting with smaller pieces, choosing specific literary devices to be focusing on, and then building and building and building until we can do something all together. That's all.
Awesome. And I love hearing that's what our ninth graders are doing. And then I know it builds every year. So all the way up to senior year, what kind of work are they producing in their senior English classes?
They're getting ready for the next level of life, seeing maybe even the gaps that we might have missed, especially with virtual learning last year. We have no problem going back to that and refocusing on that. Structure and organization, getting their thoughts clear across to whoever's reading the other side of it. With resumes, helps them with interviews and college interviews, college essays, and that's pretty much what we covered the first part of coming back to school. We just finished Beowulf because we do British literature and they really love that. And then we're just moved on to Canterbury Tales, but still writing focused just because it's so important. Just not now, just for the rest of their life.
Thanks, Ms. Swift. I love hearing how, they're still reading the classics and doing the analysis, but that you're also working in the everyday skills that our kids need, because they do need to know how to write and express themselves appropriately in writing now more than ever. That's how we talk in so many ways. So that's really cool to hear. I think my last question for the English department is, what stands out to you that makes the English department at Neumann Goretti special, makes our curriculum special, what the kids get out of it?
I really like that the students really get to have a voice in everything that they read, because they're reading so many things and they're writing so much, but at the heart of all of this, they're learning how to discuss and how to share their opinions and how to write their own voices and how they can come across in a certain way and really learn how to fully express themselves. And the English department offers a safe space for students to be able to do that in the context of literature, which also comes into life because you're making those big life connections.
Awesome, thank you. And yeah.
I'd like to add one other thing, that because it's a smaller school, you really get to have the connections with the teachers and really work closely with the English teachers in a way that you just can't at maybe a different school that's larger. And that's a big deal. That's a really big deal when you're talking about, say, learning how to write and being able to express yourself, to have that ability to like really get up close and have one-on-one tutoring if need be, and have an opportunity to really work with your teacher. That's a big deal.
That's awesome. And that's funny. The kids say the exact same thing, that they love how much time their teachers take to get to know them and really treat them as individuals. So it's cool to see that comes both ways. English department, anything else you'd like to add that you want our 8th grade families to know about their classes here, or what to expect as 9th graders at Neumann Goretti? All right. Well, I thank you so much for your video. I'll ask you guys to stick around till the very end in case we have any final questions that come up. But I think that's been a great overview of the English department, and we can go on and hear from our history and social studies department. So they've also prepared a little video to introduce themselves, and then Mr. Travellini will give a little presentation to go into more detail.
The milkman, the paperboy, the evening TV.
All right, that is our social studies department. I love it. I think it's a good intro to who they are and the kind of environment you can expect in the classroom. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Trav to talk in a little more detail.
Great, thank you, Ms. Edwards. So I'm just gonna, oh, you know what? Molly, are you able to share your screen for my
Yeah,
presentation, or can you give me access to share mine?
Yep, I'm gonna make you a co-host and then you should be able to share your screen.
Great, thank you. Great. So before we begin our presentation on our course catalog and the different skills that we focus on within our department, I just want to point out that we are obviously a younger department, but I think that's one of our strengths. And obviously that could be argued for multiple departments, but I think it's especially important for history teachers to have maybe fresh perspectives and maybe even like an updated like pedagogy approach to studying history. Obviously, the stereotype through cinema and TV is that history classrooms are boring. And of course, in this instance, I think sometimes that stereotypes are accurate. And, I can speak for myself. In high school, I had a much more older faculty. And while they were, well-versed in the content, they approached it in a very dry manner. And I think here at Neumann-Goretti with the young faculty, we approach history with a very exciting way, and that it certainly benefits the next generation of students. So just running through our course catalog. So freshman year students are expected to take world history. We do have several AP courses and opportunities that students can take. As of now, the AP World History course is offered only online. That's true for the AP US Government course as well. So after freshman year, students go into US Government, followed by US History in junior year, which AP US is offered in person. And then senior year, we've actually diversified our course options. We went from comparative government and psych and soc to offering AP psychology, African American studies, and an intro into philosophy. So overall, looking at it holistically, we like to think that here at Neumann-Goretti, we offer a very wide range of areas of content, especially for seniors who, many of our students are gearing up to go to college. So if we could, expose them to, say, psychology or philosophy or something a little bit more rich like African American studies, that's all the more better for them. Not just for college, but also just for themselves. So just a quick bragging right. This is ever increasing, but we currently have a 65% passing rate from our AP courses. And while that might not seem very high, we like to, we like to pride ourselves on that our AP courses are students are available to take them. And it's not just simply the top tier elite group. So, we pride ourselves that, other students that might not, be quote unquote ready for an AP course or might not be AP caliber can still have that experience, regardless of, the exam in May. So just some historical skills that we focus on throughout our department: contextualization, comparison, causation, and continuity and change. I won't bore you by going into each of those. In terms of sourcing, we do like to kind of maybe scale back from using the textbook. Of course, textbook is a great supplementary resource, but we do like to implement primary and secondary sources And then from there, we dissect those sources similar to the English department in terms of historical context, intended audience, point of view, purpose for writing the document, and then of course the organization. How could that historical evidence be used in an essay? And then interpretations would be the secondary source component. How do secondary historians and viewpoints kind of lend itself to today? In terms of instruction, we try and implement a student-centered classroom, document-based questions, as well as inquiry-based learning. And then enrichment opportunities. Just as recently as last Saturday, Newman-Goretti held a Saturday field trip to the Constitution Center, which I think nearly 50 students attended. In years past, I've ran a field trip to the American Revolution Museum. I've also had City Commissioner Al Schmidt come out to Newman-Goretti to speak to our students on the importance of voting and getting them registered to vote. And then in a few weeks, Ms. Rensburg will have Councilman Squilla come out and speak to the students. So pretty cool that we're very much take advantage of being in the city of Philadelphia and kind of really hitting home that point that the city is our classroom. So just a quick student testimony. They're very appreciative of us for helping them become a stronger student academically, but also socially in terms of their character. And that's it. So at this time, we'll have any Q&A.
Thanks, Mr. Trav. A question, so you kind of went into it, but I'd love to go into a little more detail on what it looks like in practice with all of the history and social studies teachers. What are the skills that you want your students to develop in your social studies classrooms, and how do you get them there?
Well, I guess I'll begin. So I personally do a lot of work with primary sources. I think it's very valuable for the students to read the voices of the past, especially in American history, and see, our historical ancestors and where we come from and the different ideas and views that have shaped us today. So with that, and I explain this to the students, we don't necessarily just read the documents, but rather we, of course, analyze and annotate them. So taking into account the point of view in terms of, what's the author's position in society, in terms of the audience, who are they writing to, right? And how does that impact their writing? So ultimately, I think, a lot of what we do in terms of content may be forgotten, unfortunately, by the time they graduate or throughout their life. But if we can instill in them certain critical skills like being a critical reader and, taking into account things like point of view and author bias or the context of the document, that's something that will serve them way beyond, their 4 years at Newman-Goretti.
Also, Mr. Trav just kind of stole my thunder on that one. The importance of history is to make those connections to, even though something happened 10,000 years ago, that history kind of still repeats itself in a way, and to realize through cause and effect what happens as a result of this war. How does it change society? How does it improve it? Or where is it? Do we see any of those similar patterns or themes in our world today? And right now I'm having my students create an argument, a persuasive essay about which civilization is stronger. Is it Athens or is it Sparta? And they have to do a little bit of research on their own from not only what they have in their textbook, but what they find as a stronger form of government. Is democracy the best form out there, or is there others? And they have to just kind of make their claim to it, but give strong enough evidence to support that. And again, with that, when you make comparisons from one to the other, is there going to be any correlation to because of what they've learned from those two civilizations? Could those civilizations still, in a way, work today? So the cause and effect and the making comparisons is very important to me and in my class, having them reach into U.S. history a little bit and see if anything applies to ancient civilizations.
That's great. I love hearing about the stuff you're doing in the classrooms. I'd love to hear more about what are some of the other big projects, essays, things that you hope the kids will remember, the projects they'll remember when they leave.
Yeah, so right now I'm doing with my world history classes, which is freshmen, they're doing a Greek mythology project, and they had to choose a Greek god or goddess, and they all got to choose like out of a bucket. So that was really exciting for them that they got to choose that. And they're doing some research. And this was something that I kind of had them decide what they wanted to do their project on. I gave them a couple of broad options of saying, would you like to study this? Would you like to do your project on this? And they all kind of landed on that Greek mythology. And so I like to give my students a lot of choice and being able to decide what's something that's going to interest you, and then how can we take that and further, add that into our curriculum and kind of make it work as part of our class. Because I know a lot of students aren't really that interested in world history. And so I'm trying to give them some opportunity to have some input, have some say, and then create that kind of excitement or have some type of feeling towards what they're doing and enjoy it a little bit more.
That's great. It sounds like I'm hearing a lot from the history department of trying to find ways to connect their lives now to these societies that seem so ancient, but really might still have a lot in common with what's going on. As we know, history does repeat itself. I think it's safe to say that we are living in a historical time right now, and the kids have access to more information and more news than ever. So I'm curious, you're studying history, but how do you connect current events and kind of wading through the waters of what's going on in the world now to what you're learning in the classroom? And I ask that because I imagine it comes up. I think the social studies classroom is the natural place where kids are going to bring questions about what they're seeing, on the news, on Twitter, social media, and all of that.
I'll just say something quick about that as somebody who's teaching American government, which is something you need to be aware of right now. There are a lot of ideas that are being discussed in our world right now, and just having an opportunity and a place to talk about them is really important. And one of the things that I work on with my students is actively talking about how to have conversations with other people that you may disagree with, and how to have those conversations in a productive manner, so that the both of you get a chance to say something and you can move on without having to feel like you're really angry with each other. So that's one way that I'm connecting it back to current events, and hopefully also getting in some critical thinking skills as well.
That's great. Thanks, Ms. Rensburg. Did anyone want to add to that, or?
Yeah, I think just to add to Ms. Rensburg's point, through themes, I know I didn't include them on the PowerPoint, but through like thematic learning, I think students are able to organize certain ideas or certain concepts at least, and regardless of, say, the president, right, of whether it's in the early Republic period or antebellum or in the modern 20th century, right, there's certain things, right, or events or policies that seem to resemble one another. So I think students, as like historians, as detectives, they're able to kind of trace the repetition, so to speak, at least throughout American history, and see how the American people responded, or how was it viewed at one point, how was it viewed in another, and then you get that comparison component. And then you could include in the continuity of change, what continued as a result of that, what changed, right? So, with history, and, my colleagues would agree, we could have, there's a lot of opportunity to, have fun with it and really kind of lean in on, current events, right? And stuff that's going on. And, maybe we don't have all the answers, but we could provide some clarity and some understanding for the students through the lens of history.
That's great. It's a lot for our kids to take in. So it's nice that they have teachers who are creating spaces where they can talk about these things calmly and productively, which is really cool. You kind of think of history class as you take out your big textbook, go chapter by chapter, era by era, but Mr. Trav, you talked a lot about using primary sources. So for our 8th graders who might not be so familiar with that, like what are some specific examples of the types of primary sources they might be looking at instead of just reading through the textbook?
So we try and have several from each unit. Obviously, we'll have like the major ones, for example, the Declaration of Independence, Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, kind of like the major players in American history. But of course, if you really want to dive into history, you kind of want that alternative view, or you want other groups to be included in the historical approach. So something I did as recently as yesterday, after having discussed the Declaration of Independence, we then read Abigail Adams, obviously the wife of John Adams, and her famous correspondence to her husband, where she says, "Remember the ladies." And, she points out to her husband that the ladies should not be bound to any laws that they are not represented in. So she, obviously uses the argument of the colonists against the British Crown to kind of, assert and secure, women's rights. Obviously, it's a long struggle thereafter. But I think that would be a great example of maybe a lesser known primary source among students that they may not have necessarily had yet. And obviously that might not necessarily be included in a textbook. So, also primary sources don't have to be written text, right? We look at political cartoons, paintings, maps, right? Anything obviously that, was created or presented or published at that particular time. And I think the students, again, appreciate kind of going directly to the source rather than, flipping through pages of a textbook that is oftentimes, unfortunately, dry.
That's great. Thank you. And this will be my last question for the history department. And it's the same question we asked the English department. What makes the history department at Neumann-Goretti unique? What makes it stand out to you?
I gotta say, just in terms of what I see from the teachers, Mr. Traveline said it early in his videos that we're a very young department, and that is a strength of us. I think our enthusiasm for our subject area and our content, how even the dry, what some students would consider dry or not interesting, the way in which we find ways to liven it up, to bring it alive to them in any way, shape, or form. It's not just simply, we lecture and talk, but through the student activities, through the tasks that we can make the students do, the student-centered learning of them looking through texts, primary sources, watching videos, or just little in-class activities or projects, things that they can do that make it more relevant to them. And I think our enthusiasm, at least I can speak from from myself and what I've seen Mr. Traveline as he teaches. Just if we make it seem interesting, if we make it come alive to them, students are, I've noticed, more I can't think of the word, but like they're just more willing to engage back with us or have those open discussions with us. So personally for me, it's that the energy that we can bring to a class.
I would agree with that from my seat, just from your video alone. You guys bring a ton of enthusiasm to the history department, and it's clearly a place where kids are learning a ton, but also enjoying themselves, which is important, especially for high schoolers. This is my final question of the night is for all of the teachers. You know, we've talked about what Neumann-Goretti offers and what your departments offer. What are you looking for in your students? What kind of students are you looking for to join your classes and to be a part of our school community?
I like my students to come with passion. They, you know, not only that willingness to learn, but I just love that, you know, our Neumann-Goretti student is a unique kind of student, and, you know, the passion that they bring, whether it's related to English or history or something else, they just keep me engaged with them, and they keep me laughing all day long. So I want them to stay just the way they are.
Thank you. English and history teachers, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I appreciate you taking the time. This is really wonderful for our 8th graders and their families to learn about what they can expect here. I know I would be excited to be joining your classes if I were them, so I will speak on their behalf and say they are already looking forward to it. Thank you for your time, and I know we will talk to you again soon.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Edwards.
Thank you.